Shalom. This is Sincere Milk of Yahweh Sap, Lion's Den. I camp out with Lion Den Hawan Ben Joshua Water in Jacksonville, Florida. And first, I'd like to give a prayer to the Father, to the Son, to the elders, to the Akims, and to the women and children. Kal, Halayim, La, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Bahashem, Ha, Roka, Kodash, Mahamath, in the name of Yahweh Shai, in spirit and holy and truth. The one is to the elders of GMS, the one is to my elder Hawan. Salutation to the Akims around the four corners of the earth in sincerity and truth. And to the women and children, Shalom. Okay, well, I did, this is going to be part 2, and it's called, it says here, the fall of the empires, right, of Rome versus U.S., okay, the hidden secret of money. And in part 1, I got to say slacker because I did a mistake on the topic of 1929, about the Great Depression. I said it was Henry Ford when it's really Roosevelt, right? When they made an executive order to confiscate people's silver and gold, right? To steal, okay? The title of this lesson, Nothing New Under the Sun. Okay, let me play it here.
History that can not only allow you to see the future, but to make preparations for the very predictable outcomes. You're about to discover that huge financial gyrations, inflation, loss of personal freedom, and out-of-control government are all things that we have been warned about for centuries and are the direct consequences of the monetary system itself. In fact, most world history is determined by monetary history. So what lessons can we take from the past to help us navigate the perfect economic storm that awaits us? Debasing a nation's currency supply to pay for public works and war is a pattern that just repeats and repeats throughout history, and it's a pattern that always ends badly. In this double episode, we're going to create a timeline to show the similarities between ancient Rome and the United States today. Just like the USA, Rome started out as a republic after overthrowing a monarchy. So let's begin with their early economy in around 500 BC. In the early days of the Roman Republic, for the first 178 years, there's no evidence of big inflation. They were using gold and silver coinage mostly as their currency. Small denominations were made out of copper and bronze. Then Hannibal of Carthage starts to harass Rome in something called the Second Punic War. And to pay for this war, they did deficit spending by taking the coins that they took in taxes, melting them down, and adding cheap and abundant base metals, such as copper, so that they could mint more coins. This caused a big inflation, and the inflation was one of the factors that brought the Roman Republic down to a dictatorship, the Roman Empire. Most of Rome's gold and silver was stored in vaults under the floor of their treasury, which was also known as the Temple of Saturn. If you visit Rome, go to the Forum in the center of the city, where you can still find the ruins of the temple today. And here's something I found really interesting. The U.S. Treasury in Washington, D.C. has almost exactly the same design. So now let's start filling in our timeline of events to keep track of the major similarities between Rome and the USA. We just learned that the early Roman Republic enjoyed a long period of practically no inflation because they used sound money, pure gold and silver. Interestingly, the United States started on the same path. From the late 1700s to the early 1900s, prices were very stable thanks to laws that mandated the use of gold and silver as money, and our people were not robbed by inflation. But in both instances, it was the ongoing debasement of the money for war spending and public works that led to economic chaos. Tell us the parallels between Rome and what's happening in the United States today.
Well, they're obviously two very different societies, but there are some broad parallels. Rome was a republic. They made sure they had 2 people each year who were the rulers, the consuls. They always changed because the Romans were worried. They'd had a monarchy before, very unpopular. They overthrew it. So they didn't want anyone getting too many powers. What did in Rome, no surprise, excessive taxation and debasing the money.
When you look at the coinage, it started out being an exact measure of copper for the sestertii and silver for the denarii, and by the time it was all over, worth absolutely nothing with perhaps a wash of silver to make it look like the original thing, which is exactly what we're doing now. So these patterns repeat themselves. They always repeat themselves.
The Romans were the first culture to understand that a currency maintains its value because of its rarity. Julius Paulus once said, "This device, being officially promulgated, circulates and maintains its purchasing power not so much from its substance as from its quantity." Even still, the Romans never stopped churning out more currency, just like the USA today and the ancient Greeks before them. But in their race to debase, the Romans came up with some new twists of their own. The first of these twists was coin clipping. Whenever a Roman would enter a government building, they'd simply clip the edge off of their gold or silver coin. They would save up all of those clippings, melt them down, and mint more coins, expanding the currency supply. And when that wasn't enough, they developed the art of revaluation, where you just take a coin and you stamp a new value on it. You got 100! That simple.
The move away from precious metals to something less than precious metals, and the Roman Empire famously clipped their coins. This was a debasement of the currency. There wasn't a paper currency, but it was a debasement of the currency. In the US, there's a very interesting phenomenon going on where they're not clipping coins, but when you go to the supermarket, you find that the portions of the items at the supermarket on sale are shrinking. You know, the servings on various other consumer products are getting smaller and smaller, but this price is the same. So it's very similar to that old Roman coin clipping trick from 2,000 years ago. It's another form of currency debasement, but it's hidden through cardboard and marketing and fancy presentation. But the people are nevertheless having their currency debased.
So why should you care about this? The quality of a society is directly proportional to the quality of its money. Stable money leads to stable prices, which leads to a stable society, whereas debasement of the currency leads to the demise of empires. The major reason for Rome's ongoing currency debasement was to pay for their ever-expanding empire and never-ending wars. The precious metals content of their coinage fell further and further until it had next to no connection with the pure gold and silver that had initially provided them with a stable economy. Cut to today, and we see the same pattern. Up until the outbreak of World War I, the United States had very high levels of precious metals in its coinage, and treasury notes were backed by gold at a 1-to-1 ratio. From there, the USA debased its currency more and more to pay for World War II, the Korean War, and then the Vietnam War, until finally, the link between gold and the US dollar was severed completely. For those new to the series, let's revisit the pivotal event that has managed to sneak under the radar of modern historians as nothing more than a side note, even though it will have repercussions for generations to come. It was an unprecedented act of global debasement by a modern wannabe emperor that would make any Roman ruler hang his head in shame. Most people think that President Nixon's criminal activities were limited to wiretapping and spying on the competition. But his greatest crime came on August 15th, 1971, when he severed the last ties between the dollar and gold, when he ended the Bretton Woods system.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
The Bretton Woods system tied all of the world's currencies to gold through the US dollar. But instead of running out and hanging the guy when he took us the world off of gold, the world just yawned and accepted that we were now on a fiat currency system, that we were now on this infinitely expanding system, that we no longer had money, we had currency.
Money should be a fixed measure of value. It's like 5,280 feet in a mile, or 12 inches in a foot. I gave you the example. Imagine trying to build a house, say 2,500 square feet. If the foot changed each day, it was 12 inches one day, 10 the next, 20 the next. Very hard to do if that's changing. Or the clock.
I like, yeah, this.
The 60 minutes an hour. Imagine if they floated the clock. So you had 60 minutes an hour one day, 30 the next, 90 the next. You'd soon have to have hedges, derivatives, futures to figure out how many hours you're working. You're baking a cake. I love this example. And it says bake the batter for 45 minutes. Then you have to figure out, is that inflation adjusted minutes? Is it a California minute, a Nevada minute? Just makes life infinitely complicated. So when you have a fixed measure, when you go to the market, you assume if you're getting 16 ounces of liquid, it's 16, not 13, not 18. Just makes commerce, which is the source of wealth, people doing things with each other, infinitely easier.
It is very odd that we've established a situation where what people do is scramble to borrow liabilities. Certainly, I guess, the most attractive liability in the world, or put a different way, the most attractive free trading lie on the planet is the US dollar. We joke in investment conferences, it's the worst currency in the world, except all the others. If you're going to trade in a lie, it better be a liquid lie. What the United States dollar has going for it is the most liquid lie in the world. I mean, if you think about the advantage that we have now, yes, it's a horrible thing to do morally. But what we do is amazing. It's amazing that we can get away with this. We print a lie, a dream, on a piece of paper. And we ship it to Brazil, and they send us coffee. And we ship the same lie to Germany, and they send us a Mercedes. And we ship the same lie to Japan, and they ship us a stereo. It's actually a pretty cool deal. I mean, I feel bad about it in a sense, but it's grandly amusing in a sort of a cosmic sense. You just need to understand that somehow, sometime, some way, there's going to be a reckoning.
The dollar's involved worldwide as a major currency, so it's 1/2 of everything we do, and it has no definition. I used to get a charge out of asking Bernanke and Greenspan to define a dollar, and they can't define a dollar. They, in the old days it was a weight of silver, a weight of gold, and that's what it was supposed to be according to the Constitution.
Well, Dr. McCracken, not being an economist, can you explain to me briefly how in the world do you determine what a value of a dollar is in relation to a French franc, for instance, if you can't convert that dollar into gold? What standard do you have? What is it worth at all?
You determine that's going to be determined in the marketplace, just as really largely it has already. So
well, what is this going to do then to, for instance, the speculator in gold? How is this going to affect him? Is the price going to drop or rise?
The official price of gold, of course, has not been changed. That was not a part of this program at all, nor is that contemplated.
Well, maybe they should have contemplated what was likely to happen, because for anyone who had studied history, the outcome was perfectly clear. Rather than help the economy, Nixon's actions made things a lot worse, and the public started feeling the effects of inflation much more acutely. It was hard for savers to keep their heads above water unless they had saved in the ultimate stores of value, gold and silver. Just as it had always done throughout history, gold once again accounted for the expanding fiat currency supply by rising in price to cover that supply. Gold had done this as recently as 1934, when the USA's debasement really started heating up and gold was revalued from $20.67 an ounce to $35 an ounce. Now the process began again as the public bid the price up from $35 an ounce in 1971, climbing all the way to $850 an ounce in 1980, easily accounting for the massive quantities of currency the USA had conjured out of thin air now that Nixon had removed all restrictions. Gold had once again held an out-of-control currency to answer. Getting back to the Julius Paulus quote about the value of a currency being decided by the quantity rather than the content, one of the biggest economic hurdles that mankind repeatedly trips on is that we have never been able to control the quantity of currency. And this is one of the reasons why gold has always been the ultimate money. It can't be printed and it keeps us in check. Today, I think cryptocurrencies are a very exciting development and have tremendous possibilities. The bottom line is that governments have a long history of trying to cheat gold, either through debasement or manipulation of the markets. But here's the thing. In the end, gold always wins. And that brings us back to the Romans, who went through many cycles of currency debasement for war spending, then inflation being felt by the public, then revaluation of the currency, then more debasement for deficit spending on war, resulting in even more inflation being felt by the public. The cycle repeated again and again. Those who were able to hold gold outside the official system maintained their purchasing power. Those who did not suffered greatly. In 270 AD, Emperor Aurelian took power and had the now worthless official coinage recalled and minted again to contain a small amount of silver, just 5%. This act brought a new vitality to Rome, but unfortunately it was short-lived as government after government gave in to the temptation of spending beyond their means. Eventually, wars were funded by levying huge taxes on businesses and the rich. This only had the effect of closing down many essential businesses. The more meddling the government did with the economy, the worse things became. The government started confiscating private property by force to fill their empty state coffers. Rome was sliding into ruin. And that brings us to Emperor Diocletian. His actions are the first recorded example of the following hidden secret of money. Wage and price controls do not work. He came to power as inflation was surging, but his decisive actions only added fuel to the fire. So because the economy was getting worse and worse, Diocletian created a whole bunch of great government solutions. He created a bunch of works projects. He hired a bunch of the homeless and people that were unemployed, made them soldiers and government employees, and this caused deficit spending to just go out of control, and inflation raged into what is known as the first documented hyperinflation. So to get inflation under control, in 301 AD, Diocletian issued his infamous Edict of Prices. This was a massive volume of a list of all of the wages and the prices people could charge for goods and services, and it was all enforced under the penalty of death. So what happened was instead of risking your life to sell something at a profit so that you could stay in business, people just closed up shop. Instead of doing a job that was listed in the book that was below a living wage, people quit their chosen career and tried to pursue a job that wasn't listed in the book. The result of this was that Diocletian came out with a law that said every son had to go into his father's business under the penalty of death. When governments start meddling with an economy, the result is always the same. Prices become distorted. This is a huge danger because prices act as a signal for an economy. They indicate to producers and buyers where true value lies. The outcome is always economic turmoil, shortages, and black markets. We've seen what happened to gold when Nixon started his economic interference. So now let's go back and see what happened when Diocletian started his jumbo-sized meddling with the economy. We know when Diocletian created the Edict of Prices that the price of gold was 50,000 denarii per pound. And then we also know from transaction receipts around 50 years later, the price of gold had risen to 1,200,000,000 denarii per pound. That's a 42,400% hyperinflation over a 50-year period. That would be similar to if gold was $35 an ounce 50 years ago. Today, 1 ounce of gold would be about $1.5 million. Another analogy that I can make is if an average family car was about $2,000 50 years ago, today it would be selling for $85 million. Just imagine $85 million on the windshield.
Okay, I'll leave it this. I can go into the lesson, but as you can see how wicked these Edomites are, right? They like to call themselves Roman. One of the things that they're being truthful about is when they call themselves Caucasian, because they are from the Caucasus Mountains. Or when they want to lie, they say also that they are white when they are not white. Okay? They don't like to call themselves the true tribal names that they are, Edomites, okay? And seeing now the history, and they want to say that in the past they were doing so good, that was because they were still learning and understanding what money was and what money is not, right? They read the Bible. So, you know, greed was always in their heart, and rape and murdering was always in their heart, meaning in their mind, okay? Before going to the lesson, I wanted to share with all of you, so-called Negros Latinos, American Speckled Birds. You know, there's a lot of YouTubes popping out to go to these websites where you can go and order silver and gold coins. That's the worst thing to do, okay? Because what they're really doing is they want to keep track on everyone that's buying it, when you can go to a coin shop. Now, yes, coin shops are going to get to a point where they also, you know, want to keep track of what you're getting from them, meaning that not only that you're buying it, but they're going to ask for, you know, information, you know. But you got to remember that everything that came into stores came from where? From the wilderness, right? So there are websites. One of them that I can pass on to you is called huntingforgold.com. Okay, you write number 4 on that. And it teaches you how to weigh it, how to document it, when to go and where to go, right? I mean, it's all over the place besides silver and gold, rocks, right? There's also mineral rocks, okay? Just to throw it out there. But bottom line, what is the most richest, wealthiest rock in the whole world, in the whole universe, is the words of Yahweh Shin Yahweh Shai. And they want to remove that from us learning it, from us speaking it, right? I want to go to Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 2. As I said, the title of this lesson, Nothing is New Under the Sun. Here we go. Verse 2. Vanity of vanities shall the preacher vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Okay? And vanity is what? An excessive pride in or admiration of one's own appearance or achievements, right? Number 2, the quality of being worthless or futile. Futile means incapable of producing any useful result, pointless. And that's what these Edomites are, right? They know already, because they have done it before. They even show it in the video. They know what is of proper righteous money, right? But they will always go back to that wickedness, that greediness that they have in them, right? And the reason they do that, because in their eyes, in their way of thinking, in their belief system, what better way to keep everyone in a mental, educational slavery mentality, right? I mean, they dumb everybody down through education to think that paper is money, and that digital currency, invisible money, has anything of purchasing power, right? They made the multitude of people lazy to go out and get real money, right? So to think about. Verse 3. What profit has a man of all his labor which he takes under the sun? Right? I mean, if they're going to remove the measuring of money, so you got to ask yourself, you're working for what? Right? At the end, when you get old and you're retired, they're still sticking it to you. Something to think about. Verse 4. One generation pass away, and other generation comes. but the earth abides forever. Okay? Says letting you know here that you were created for a purpose. But if you don't want to look into history to know what is your purpose, well, you're going to find out at the end that all the labor that you did was for nothing. But it comes with consequences. Verse 5. The sun also arise, and the sun goes down, and has to his place where he arose. Verse 6. The wind goes towards the south and turns about unto the north. It whirls about continually, and the wind returns again according to his circuits. Right? So, when we go to these Edomite slavery indoctrination schools, you know that they have their books that they want you to learn from. That way they can add the pages that they want to put the lies that they want. But if you go into the countryside and sit down and stand still like Scripture says and call out in the name of Yahweh Shin Yahweh Shai, you will see that just standing still, the wilderness itself will start teaching you that everything is in order. Right? Food produces, the trees produce food, right? Bushes produce herbs, and the lakes, the rivers, and so on. But they want you to think that They want you to think that only the city, living in the city, is the only place that you can live and produce. When really, in reality, living in the city and going to the indoctrination schools, slave mentality that they want to keep us, it's where they want you to learn only one thing and one thing only. To be what? Consumers, right? Consumers, a person who purchase good and service for personal use. Well, once the AI, which is already being, used, everybody's buying things from the internet, we're not going to be having any more good and services because of the digital currency that they want to force upon everyone so they can keep on stealing. But they know that this stealing, they know that this wickedness is going to lead into destruction. You see? That's how come they're going to be hiding in the bunkers, hoping that they can make it back out, right, with their children and keep on living and make what? America great again? No, that's not going to happen. Because Yahweh Shin Yahweh Shah has other plans, right? Moving on to, moving on to verse 7. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. Because it's balanced, it's well created, perfect, in perfection. Unto the place from where the rivers come, neither they return again. Verse 8. All things are full of labor, men cannot utter it, the eyes is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ears filled with hearing. In verse 9. The things that has been, it is that which shall be. And that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun. But the Edomite wicked bastards that they are, they want to deceive, and they have, and keep deceiving that there's always something new. That you have to just trust them and believe in them and believe in their system. Right? Do what they say. Yet they're the ones eating healthy food. They're the ones that are stocking up in silver and gold. And they're the ones that keep stealing land. That's what Rome did in the past. Rape, rob, and murder. Right? Wasn't that what before Rome? Well, who was that in the Bible? Cain and Abel. Didn't Cain murder his brother? Didn't God make him a fugitive for what he did, and told him that nobody's gonna touch him until Yahweh Shin Yahshai comes back, right, and read his sentence? Yeah, that's what happens when you don't want to look into history. You just want to believe and trust what the educational system teaches and obey them. Verse 9. The things that has been, it is that which shall be. And that which is done, oh wait, I already read that, right? Yes, I did. So moving on, Slakia. Moving to Ecclesiastic chapter 3, verse 15. That which has been is now, and that which is to be has already been. See? So they got to keep you away from the past. Why? Because of this. And Yahweh requires that which is past. Okay? Very important. Require means need for a particular purpose. Right? You heard the old saying, stick to the program. Right? Well, they don't want you to stick to the past. Because then they realize, you will realize that you don't need the government. Remember, there's more people than government. Okay? So they don't want you to realize that. But more importantly, they don't want the so-called Negros Latinos, Native Americans, and speckled birds to realize that they are the true Hebrew Israelites that the Bible speaks about. They love it when you keep that slave mentality. Okay? Verse 16. And moreover, I saw under the sun the place of judgment, that wickedness was there, and the place of righteousness, that iniquity was there. Right? Yahweh Shin Yahshai from heaven looked down and said, yeah, they're both in the same mess. Look what the Edomites have done to the earth. Okay? I want to take it to Ecclesiastic chapter 5. Give me a minute before I go to the next verse over here. Chapter 5, verse 8. If thou seest the oppression of the poor, and violent perverting of judgment, and justice in a province, marvel not at the matter, for he that is higher than the highest regards, and there be higher than they. So when you sing all this wickedness, the corporation, because that's what it is, government is a corporation also, right, that gave themselves artificial rights, right, that are growing, right? You can, if we put it into scriptural term, that would be David and Goliath, right? Corporations are the giants, and us Hebrew Israelites are living in the poor status, right? So don't think for one moment that that's the highest level. They're not going to reach into the stars with all this wealth and power that they have. They will never reach to the stars. Okay, my elder one time was making a joke, and he said, they will be able to think when they are getting close to it and say, look, and then lo and behold, that's when Yahweh Shai grabs them by the leg and put them back down into the earth. You see? They're never going to have that blessing. That blessing only goes to the so-called Hebrews, Latinos, Native Americans, and speckled birds. I want to go back to Ecclesiastic chapter 3 to verse 17. I say in my heart, in my mind, Yahweh shall judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time there for every purpose and for every work. That's right. So they want you only to think and see only the work that they're doing and follow them. They don't want you to know that you were given a purpose, you so-called Negros, Latinos, Native Americans, and speckled word, and that is to do the work of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Okay? So they got to remove that from us. Does it come to one mandate, and it will happen, that they're going to bring in, just like GMS has been saying for the longest time, they're going to bring in the MOTV, right? The C-hip, okay? Because they want to chip everyone. They have to make sure that everyone takes it or else, right? Or they cut your head off. Then we go and jump onto Ecclesiastic chapter 5. Slakia. I want to go to Roman chapter 2. Give me a minute here. Working with this. Chapter 2, verse 6. Who will render to every man according to his deeds? Well, we know that's going to be Yahweh Shai. When Yahweh turns Yahweh Shai loose, when the sky cracks open, and you see those so-called UFOs, when they're not really UFOs, they are identified. They are chariots that the Bible talks about. And when you see that, and then right behind Yahweh Shai comes a host of angels and chariots too. Okay? Then the whole world is going to know that somebody mightier, right, and more powerful and more wealthier than this wicked bastard Edomite and their kingdom and their empire. I want to go to verse 7. To them who by patience continue, right, in well-doing seek for glory and honor and immortality, eternal life. See, but they're already in the industry of their science. They're saying that they also have achieved that. What a coincidence, right? They want you to look of their artificial immortality, eternal life. Okay? They don't want you to look into the script and say, oh, wait a minute. This book only belongs to 12 tribes, to the so-called Negros, Latinos, Native American speckled birds, right? It doesn't belong to the Edomites, to the Moabites, right? Not even to the African Ham. Only to 12 tribes. Hebrew Israelites. So they don't want you to come back and, apply the work that's been given to us, those who are called, okay? Because that's where you get truly eternal life, immortality. Verse 8. But unto them that are contagious and do not obey the truth, but obey unrighteousness, indignation, and wrath. Slakia. You see? So 2/3 of our people, so-called Negros, Latinos, Native American, and speckled birds, who love so much this world, this wicked world, and who love the belief system of the Edomites. They did in the past, okay? They just also are repeating what they did in the past. Just like those who are called, right? The so-called Negros, Latino, American, speckled birds who are called to do the work in the name of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai also were doing it in the past. You see? Nothing new under the sun, huh? See how perfect, how powerful and mighty Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai are, they control everything. Moving to verse 9. Tribulation, anguish upon every soul of men that do evil, of the Jews first, and also of the Gentiles. Now remember, when it says the Gentiles, it's not talking only about the Edomites. It's talking to our people, so-called Negros, Latinos, Americans, and speckled birds, who believe that they also are Gentiles, or have been taught, been indoctrinated, right? Puerto Rican, American, African, Haitian, Cuban, Arubian, Mexican, Colombian, right? I mean, I can go on. Haitian, okay? So, when you wake up to your true identity, that is the most beautiful gift, blessing, right? To wake up to the truth, the peace that you start receiving because of it, and knowing that this is only a stepping stone, okay? That greater things are awaiting for us and for us only, okay? The so-called Negros, Latinos, Native Americans, and speckled birds. I want to go to verse 10. But glory and honor and peace to every man that works good, right? They do the work of Yahweh Shin Yahweh Shai. To the Jews first, and also to the Gentiles. See how beautiful that is? To gain the understanding, right, through your elders, huh? Then your archons who have been doing the work longer than you, and you can humble yourself. Because this has nothing to do with age to begin with. Okay? Moving on. To Ecclesiastic chapter 1, verse 10. Is there anything wherefore it may be said, see, this is new? It has been already of old time, which was before us. Verse 11. There is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be any remembrance of things that are to come, with those that shall come after. So, newborn babies that come into this wicked world, that's why they wanted to have the babies, in the hospitals, when women should start, learning how to have babies at home. Okay, because things are getting real bad. So for you to think about. I'm going to go to, I'm going to leave it with songs. So what? Chapter 82. Give me a minute. Chapter 82, verse 1. Give me a minute. I say verse 1. Yahweh stands in the congregations of the mighty. He judges among the gods. Woo. Verse 2. How long will ye judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? Yeah, how long you're going to keep accepting this this big lie, this big wickedness belief system? I mean, right now, the majority of people are running into what they call that internet businesses, right? So you're not only setting yourself up, but you're forgetting that you are Hebrew Israelite. You should be also doing the work of Yahweh Shin Yahweh Shai. You should be repenting if you are called. If you're not called, you're part of 2/3. It's not for you, okay? Let's get that clear. But if you're called, and you're ignoring the call, or one time you were in a camp and you walked away, right? And did not repent with fear and tremble. Okay. Verse 3. Defend the poor, the fatherless, do just. Ooh, what happened here? It's not moving. Okay. Do justice, Slakia, to the afflicted and needy. Verse 4. Deliver the poor and needy. Ride them out of the hands of the wicked. And the Spirit keeps moving to read more, so let me do that. Verse 5. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darknesses. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. Yeah. That is so true. Right? You're fighting the multitude over a cliff. Right? Over cliffs. Verse 6. I have said, ye are gods. Right? Who are gods? The so-called Negros, Latinos, American speckled birds. You didn't know that, huh? Right? And that's what the Edomites don't want you to know, understand, and come back to. And all of you are children of the Most High. When it says all of you, it's talking about the so-called Negros, Latinos, Americans, and speckled birds. Yes, everything that he created belongs to him, Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. But the 12 tribes he's talking about, you are gods, men and women. Okay? Verse 7. But ye shall die like men, and fall like one of the prince. Yeah, like kings. Die like a man, right? But when we come back as what? As kings. See? So now you can see why it's so important to accept who you are with fear and trembling, to pray, to hope that you be core. I'll leave it with this last one, verse 7. But ye shall die. No, it's like verse 8. Arise, O Yahweh, judge the earth, for thou shalt inherit all nations. I hope that this was edifying, and with that, I'll say Shalom.